Brian, I'll start with you. What do we know about those men that showed up at Nancy's house today?
Well, we don't know much. I don't believe they were law enforcement based on what we saw, but they went around the side of the house. There were 3 of them. What was most interesting is they seemed especially interested in the front door, which is, of course, where, we saw the blood drops. And then they opened the door, they went in. There was some speculation that they could be locksmiths, although I'm not sure that really makes any sense. But they were here for about an hour, and then they were gone, Jesse.
Brian, I want your take on what the sheriff had to say about getting definitely closer to a break. But let me just get to Joseph real quick. Joseph, I understand you might have 2 theories about what may have happened to Nancy that we might not be thinking of.
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, I think that, going with what Brian is saying about the blood deposition there in the front at the door, I think that is significant because this is an act of violence. And, we have confirmed, or they have confirmed at least, that is Mrs. Guthrie's blood that was deposited there. I have my own thoughts about the nature of the deposition and what it kind of stems from. And that was a sudden taking, if you will. The one shot there where you have that kind of expirated blood that is in that large patch. You've got the larger elements of blood there. That expirated blood, which I think are the tiny little dots right there, that's evidence of somebody probably coughing or sneezing out blood deposition from right there. And this blood is not indicative of, say, having a cut on your hand and it just kind of free falling.
And then you have this other idea about her age and her being a vulnerable victim.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys realize how many cases I've worked over the course of my career in Atlanta and New Orleans that involved ransom? 0. The cases I have worked, elder abuse. I've had people that have taken advantage of the elderly because they knew that they had money and they bum rush them into their house and they snatch them out of there, or they do terrible things like murder inside of the house. She is a much more valuable target to them if they had foreknowledge of whose mother she was. That doesn't take a deep dive here. And so if they think that they can get anything out of her, so I think that comes to local knowledge. Who knows this? Is this somebody's, grandson that might be in the neighborhood that has some knowledge that's been talking about this for a protracted period of time?
Right.
I wonder if it's gang related. I wonder what they're pressing relative to the gang associations in Pima County, because this smacks of this relative to targeting her, seeking her out.
And Brian, I'll give you a chance to respond to that since you've been on the ground and know this case better than anybody else. But also, I wanted your response to where the sheriff says they're definitely closer to finding a suspect. But I mentioned before all the seemingly gaps in this investigation, or at least what they know.
Yeah, and he's been saying that for a while. There were a few other things he said today that really stood out to me. One, he was asked about that new surveillance video of the car from 2.5 miles away. He said that it is part of the investigation, but he said that they are looking at hundreds of thousands of cars, which my jaw kind of dropped, like hundreds of thousands. How could that possibly be? I don't know if it's from traffic cameras, but that wasn't really encouraging to hear him say that. The other interesting thing was in terms of the backpack that the suspect was wearing that they've been saying was bought at Walmart all along, and we know they were going through the Walmart sales records. Today, he said that they believe the suspect may have gotten it secondhand, so he didn't necessarily buy the backpack himself from Walmart, which is something we haven't heard the sheriff say before.
Brian, real quick, about 40 seconds to Joseph's theory. If someone bum rushed her, jumped in, maybe was trying to get something from the house, do you know if anything was stolen from her house?
Not that we know of, no. And I heard what Joseph was saying about the blood. One thing I've thought about is I think it may be an indication that she was alive when she left the house, because if she was already dead, you would think, I mean, I hate to talk like this, but you'd think they would have wrapped her up. Or why would there be those blood spots coming if she was already dead? So I think it's a sign that she was alive when she left.
Gentlemen, I wish we had more time to talk about this because there's going to be a number of theories we go through. But Brian Entin, Joseph Scott Morgan, thank you both so much as always.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.